Hello, everyone. Welcome to another talk about health and health behavior and how to change and how to live our best lives. I'm Howard Jacobson. I'm the Chief of Behavioral Science at WellStart Health. I am the host of the Plant Yourself podcast, and I'm the co-author of Sick to Fit. We have a guest coming in today. As soon as he can hook up his Skype, we will be bringing in the impressive, the dapper, the brilliant Vince Rountree. Until then, I want to say a few words about growth. And specifically, I want to talk about the medium in which we live. And I'll do a longer Facebook Live on this, but sort of vamping right now. I'm a gardener. I spend a lot of time out there in the dirt, growing things, watering, weeding, pruning. And once the plant is up, there's very little I can do to the plant to help it grow better. If it's basil, I can deadhead a little bit when the flowers start coming up. If it's a tomato plant, I can, train it. My wife actually does all of this stuff. I just sort of, watch and help when I'm not in the way. But to put sisal rope there and like have the tomato plant kind of rise up and be supported. There's not a ton you can do if the plant is unhealthy. Sure, you can pick off diseased leaves and tomatoes, you can spray it, but really the health of the plant, like once you're dealing with fruit and stems and leaves and there's a problem, if there's an infestation, if there's a fungus, if there's an imbalance of nutrients, a lack of, nitrogen or phosphorus or something, you can try to address the problem above the ground, but the problem really exists below the ground at the root level. And the name, one root plant that we eat is called a radish. And I discovered that the word radish comes from the Latin word radix, which means the root. And so if you take a solution that is considered radical, that means you're trying to get to the root of the problem. It doesn't mean extreme. It doesn't mean crazy. It doesn't mean dangerous. It simply means getting to the root of the problem. So I hope that all of us who want to live better lives are going to take a radical approach to that problem. Because, right, we could do the let's solve the problem once it happens, which is, basically taking meds, having surgery, cutting off limbs, cutting out parts of our bodies in the same way that I might, cut off a diseased branch of a tomato plant or a basil plant or eggplant. But really, the health of the plant comes from the soil, comes from the medium in which it's growing. And that's true of all of us as well. So we have the medium of our bodies, what we're feeding ourselves, the air we're breathing, the water we're drinking, the amount of sleep we get. But there's this, we're talking about behavior change. There's also this wider medium of the society in which we live, our environment, our social environment. And since I don't see any comments so far, I wonder if folks can hear me. If you can just type, yes, hello, I can hear you, or, tell me your favorite line from Airplane or The Princess Bride, just so that I know that I'm not just moving my lips, but to no avail. That would be awesome. So the growth medium. So if my plants aren't growing, if an entire row isn't doing well, I know it's not the individual plants. I know that I need to do something to the soil. One of the things that I do to the soil, you can sort of, buy fertility. Tracy, you can hear me. Thank you very much. You can buy fertility by going to, Lowe's or Home Depot or a garden store and bringing home like bags of manure, bags of bone meal, blood meal, various very non-vegan things that you can throw in your garden to grow your vegan food. Or you can grow it slowly, naturally through composting, through picking up yard scraps, grass clippings, leaves if you have trees that drop leaves, if you have nearby woods, going and collecting twigs and branches, putting them maybe through a chipper shredder or just leaving them in compost for a year or two. And you can end up with something that can produce a beautiful growth medium for the things that you want to grow in your garden. And similarly, we can, if we're not growing the way we want to, if we're overweight, if we're sick, if we're eating food we don't want to eat, if we're staying out all hours and not getting enough sleep, and so then we have to compensate to stay awake during the day by eating lots of sugary, caffeine-y foods, and we're too tired to move our bodies in the way that they're designed to be moved. We need to address our growth medium. And rather than addressing the symptoms and working on, well, how do I keep going to the same places to eat and change how I'm eating? Like at a certain level, you can do that. You can be badass enough to be in any situation and stand your ground and, defend the purity of the way you want to treat yourself. But at the beginning, that's a kind of a tall order. And what we're really looking for there is some help. We're looking for some nutrients we can throw into the ground of our social life and allow us to grow in a different way. So what are some of these nutrients? Well, I'll look at Josh's story. Josh Lajani, my co-author in Sick to Fit, co-founder of WellStart Health. His growth medium got him to 420 pounds. Hey, here comes our guest. Hold on. Hey, Mr. Rountree.
Howard Jacobson, how are you?
I'm doing great. Let's add you to the Facebook Live. Now, that was a quick thing. You just texted me. You didn't even have Skype on this computer, and you're all set up. Very impressive.
Well, thank you for that. It took a lot longer than I was hoping that it would. You got to verify your account about 20 times before it would let me in. So finally got through it.
Oh, they should have just asked me. I would have told them how trustworthy you are. So
that's all it would take.
So while I was waiting for you to jump through all those hoops, I was talking about our social environments as a growth medium. That it either grows, the kind of person we want to be or something else. Before I just wanted to kind of frame that in your mind, but for a discussion we could have. But why don't you just start by introducing yourself and letting everyone know who you are, what you're up to. You just launched a new educational campaign to help people defeat hypertension. So who is Vince? And tell us about yourself.
Hey, so I am Vince Rountree, and I am a health coach and Food for Life instructor, PCRM program. And this whole nutrition and plant-based nutrition thing has kind of come at me from an angle of having high cholesterol and not wanting to go on pills because I kind of saw what happened with that with my grandmother who, had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and then she died of a heart attack. And then my uncle had high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and then he died of a heart attack. So then when I had high blood pressure and high cholesterol, it's like, I've seen this movie before. And so what else can I do other than just take the pills, which clearly does not have the ideal outcome, right? So started looking, my doctor says, well, it runs in your family, not much you can do. And I'm like, that's cool. That means you don't know. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just means you don't know. So, went home and studied how do you lower cholesterol? How do you lower blood pressure? And stumbled across Dr. Esselstyn's material. And I just knew I hit the jackpot there because he, starts all of his lectures with, coronary artery disease is nothing but a toothless paper tiger that need never exist. If it does exist, it need never progress, for it is a foodborne illness. And he starts many of his lectures off with that. And I stopped the YouTube and, moved the scrub bar back and had to listen to it again. I figured this can't be right. So, went on to listen to his primary research, and literally after that, I went plant-based literally that day. And that was August 5th of 2011.
Okay, so my curiosity there is, I was talking about the growth medium in which we get to be who we are. So you had a familial growth medium of high cholesterol eating, right? That was leading to coronary artery disease and untimely death. And you discovered this new material, and you basically, in some sense, like you were uprooted yourself from this from parts of this. Like, what was it like? Like, what were the challenges? Because you weren't a solo person. You're part of a family. You're part of a community. Like, what did you have to do to succeed in pulling away in terms of your eating habits? And I don't know actually whether you pulled away in other ways as well. Whether you left the clan and went to live on a mountain in Malibu, or whether you're still enmeshed in your old community and family. I don't know that part of your story. Like, how did that go down?
Well, you're exactly right, and that reminds me so much of Josh's story on how his culture was a part of who he is, and making that decision kind of removes you from the clan. And I was that way, in that nobody else ate that way, and it was like, okay, so what are you going to eat? And it was different. My undergraduate degree is in chemical engineering. I love science, and when I saw Esselstyn's data, well, to me it was like, I've got to do this as an experiment. And when you run an experiment, you don't want to contaminate the experiment by having an occasional rack of ribs, an occasional piece of fried chicken. And, my wife at the time, she part of our relationship was going to restaurants and eating all of this food, which, was difficult, because now I'm the prude who's like, I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. And so, no, that, you really touched on it. It was difficult, because I literally refused, and and it was just so embedded in me that I've got to see if this is going to work. Seeing what happened to my family, that I was not going to be swayed by any other influence, because you don't contaminate an experiment with, exceptions, because then it's like, well, how does it work with this exception? I really wanted to see, going 100%, what would happen. And the results were dramatic. I mean, they were, my cholesterol dropped over 100 points in 6 weeks. Got down, went from 240 down to 132. And I lost weight, and my blood pressure dropped. But in the process, it definitely was not easy on the, family life. That's for sure.
So what did that look like, not being easy? So you mentioned, like, you used to go out to eat a lot with, you said, your then wife?
Yeah, we're separated now, which I don't think that it was because of this. I mean, it didn't help, but it wasn't certainly because of this. But she's still a foodie, obviously. And we loved going to restaurants and trying different things. And I told her, I'm not gonna do this. At least for this. And and her question to me was, well, how long are you going to do this for? And my answer was, I don't know. I said, if the results come back and I don't get much cholesterol drop, I don't get much blood pressure drop, I'll probably go back. But if the results come back and my body tells me to stop eating this based on the data, I can't see any other way other than listen to your body. And so it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. Her mother is type 2 diabetic, and she gives herself insulin. So I guess the thought of me changing just based on a high cholesterol reading, and her mother's been giving herself insulin for all of these years, was, maybe a bit strange that I would respond
Like
so dramatically.
yeah, like you overreacted, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
about your family of origin? Were there also challenges and difficulties with going, if there, I don't know if there are folks there still around that you see going to Thanksgiving, like where else were there stresses on on your social fabric but from your decision?
Yeah, definitely. Cookouts and the social pressures. I think probably the toughest thing. My ex-wife's mom, who had was diabetic. She, I mean, our relationship was fantastic. I mean, I never had like a mother-in-law issue. She would love to come over and make me my favorite baked chicken.
Hmm.
And I would say the toughest thing with making this transition was looking her in the eye saying, I'm not going to eat your baked chicken anymore. I mean, it was like I slapped her in the face. And that was for me the toughest thing about this transition. I mean, everything else has been, you get used to it, but that social interaction, Thanksgivings, yeah, typically went to friends' houses for Thanksgivings, and that was a matter of, in time. It was just the first Thanksgiving that was an issue. I made my transition. It was August 5th, 2011. The first one was the toughest one. After that, people kind of knew me as, oh, he's this crazy plant-based guy that doesn't eat like normal people. And so, people got used to it. But the first one, and then, the first one was definitely one where, what's wrong with Vince? But I had results by then. The toughest thing was before you get your results, because then it's like, what are you? But my results were really dramatic. I mean, it was a big drop. So, my explanation was, this is my health.
Gotcha. So you had some strains on relationships. Did you develop new relationships? Did you find a community that could support you in this, that you can sort of relax into and not have to fight against?
Well, certainly online, not a physical community, other than I did actually, now that you mention it, join a couple of meetup groups. And that was kind of cool. I mean, you realize how fun it is being around other people who eat like you, that you don't have to always explain
Yeah.
every time you eat. I just came back last weekend from Dr. Barnard's conference, up in DC. And, the spread of food they have there is unbelievable. And it's just so wonderful being around everybody who thinks like you do, so and eats like you do, and that is always so comforting, because we are a part of a tribe, whether we want to be or not. And I found, like, in my office at the time, I was working for corporate America. The people laughed when I told them what I was trying to do. But after the results came back so strongly, I had people ask me, hey, you think it'll work for me? And so my coaching, career started by helping people at work to make the transition. And I developed my own community at work, because I had people that I was helping make the transition, and they got better. And then when we had big sales meetings and things like that, I kind of had created my own, coalition, for lack of a better word, of people who ate like me.
So it's almost like you actually started putting out chemicals into the environment that changed the environment in a way that supported you even more.
Exactly. Not realizing that I was doing that, but yes, that is exactly what happened.
All right. So as a coach now, when you work with people, what are some of the big obstacles that you see in terms of their current social growth medium that's gotten them one way, and how they can shift that?
Yeah, the social part is I think the social part is the hardest part. I mean, there are people that have, that they, really miss their foods. And there's people that, well, I just had chicken this week. I mean, you certainly have run into that, but that social thing, and holidays, and being around people, I think that's that toughest part. But, I've had clients that they got better so quickly. And that's why, in the coaching process, you're asking questions and you're, meeting people where they are. And I always start when I, work with a new client, I give them the choice. I says, we can transition however you want to transition. The two ways that I would recommend best, and you choose, is either we choose a date and on that date we go all in, or we choose a date, and on that date, we go 1 week breakfast, plant-based, whatever you want, lunch and dinner. The next week, plant-based breakfast and lunch, and then whatever you want for dinner. And then the third week, you're all in. And I give people that option. And I would say almost everybody has said, I just want to go all in. Mm-hmm. And I love it when they make that decision because they start getting better faster. And of course, the faster we get people to feeling better and getting positive results, then the easier it is to deal with that social pressure, because they can look people in the eye and say, hey, I measure my blood pressure, because, somebody who's on blood pressure meds or they're type 2 diabetic, I tell them that, listen, you need to check these things every day, because if you're on medication, I don't have the authority to tell you to stop taking meds. So you will have to measure that every day and then talk to your doctor and show them the results. And you need to register that. And so by doing that, that helps them to deal with social pressures, because they've got results. They've got results then, and it makes it a little bit easier.
Beautiful. Hey, I got to jump off, but I want to make sure that people know where to find you and where they can find your blood pressure reduction resources. So time for a short Vince Rountree ad.
So if you would like to lower your blood pressure, I have written a book that is available for free. Very easy to read. It's in interview style. It's at lowerbpnow.com. Lower BP, like lower blood pressure, lowerbpnow.com. And you can download it for free, and then that'll get you on my list. And when I have my challenge, because I'm actually going to run a lower your blood pressure in 10 days challenge, and you'll see that when you after you get the book, and it will give you the opportunity to see for yourself that food has a tremendous impact on your blood pressure. I'd love to have you.
Awesome, thanks. And I'll do a brief ad to say that you're one of our star coaches, hopefully going to be joining WellStart and helping supporting people on their journeys. And we are thrilled to welcome you aboard.
Fantastic! It is a pleasure and an honor to work with the Howard Jacobson, the co-writer of Whole and the co-writer of Proteinaholic. A couple of books that I think so highly of. So, well, it's all good.
Thank you very much, Vince. Thanks for jumping on at such short notice, for jumping through all the Skype hurdles, and for sharing your perspective and your wisdom with people. It's we're healing the world, man.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. I'm happy to be in the fight with you.
Right on. All right. Thanks, man.
Yep. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.